Throughout most of my life, I've been interested in things relating to environmental issues, the human condition, philosophy, and of course I'm a musician. So the struggle that I've had personally in my own life is to try to make those two impulses that I have to make those things work together. Because I'm, like anybody else, would love to be proud of my community and my country and the rest of the people that I share this planet with.
To cause rational people to act irrationally, you need to use religion or some type of dehumanization, abstraction of a whole other group of people so that they're not viewed as human beings.
Well, the first colonists who came over were very devout Christians. They were fleeing England because it was a land of sin and therefore was going to be destroyed by God. And they were coming here to carry the message of Christ, and they were going to help the natives. And they came over to save them and to Christianize them. And it was following divine orders, the deep feature of American history and life. Everything we do is fulfilling God's will.
The missionaries didn't do us any favors when they brought their message of salvation to this, quote, savages. They had spirituality. They had a creator. They had a life after. They had principles on which to live by.
Part of the big picture of the fact that there are reservations is just so crazy to me. You know, it's a stolen country, and then, you know, okay, you get this much. No, it's that much. No, I'm sorry, it's that. We didn't mean that. You get that. Even on a legal level, it just seems to me just so outrageous that those broken treaties can stand.
Everybody thinks that Native people get a check from the government every month, living off the fat of the land because of the casinos, when in fact, 95% of the profits from casinos go to but 5% of the people.
People are putting money in these one-armed bandits all day long, and that money's flowing somewhere.
You know, a lot of us, we personally as a member do not see the money directly. Of course, a lot of it, they say, is being spent on the people.
I was born in a land I don't think you understand. Goddamn, what I am. I'm a native of this place. Please don't kick me in my face. My race has been disgraced.
Statistically, the Native people are the poorest of the poor. You see 70 to 80% unemployment rate, health issues, 70 to 80% have diabetes, tuberculosis, heart disease. I mean, the list goes on and on. The Indian healthcare system's funded less than the federal prison healthcare system, for crying out loud.
The sadness of the prevalence of, like, sort of the alcoholism and sexual violence and stuff that happened, it's continuing the wake of the original crimes were committed, continuing this, like, outgoing
sin.
Yeah, this outgoing, like,
Well,
wake.
it's what
that continues
poverty
today.
and lack of education breed.
Yeah.
I mean, you steal people's worldview, their land base, which is their resources. I mean, what do they have left?
Yeah,
Their identity?
exactly. Yeah.
Europeans come over here, they think that owning stuff means something, and
Well,
the Indians don't have that concept.
That's what when I said the other night, I said, well, the Europeans came over, driven by manifest destiny, the Bible in one hand and the sword in the other, and they got everything.
Yeah,
But they missed everything.
totally.
When I first started on this journey, there was just two of us. It was just myself and Vinny Castro. I met Vinny through a mutual friend. He's a political activist, an environmental activist. He's an artist, a sculptor, a musician. Hey, Vinny. Hey, man. This is way cooler than last time we tried to do this, right? Just the two of us? Just the two of us? Out in the Alabama hills? We had this idea of political activism through music, and we started taking trips out to the Paiute Indian Reservation, Shoshone Indian Reservation, out to New Mexico and Arizona. So we started jamming together.
28 Wednesday morning in the studio right now. We got the band Shadow Train. Good to see you in here. Albuquerque's own Greg and Hyatt.
Music has always been a really integral part of my life growing up. I come from a Pueblo background, which actually denotes a race of people. And we are considered a race because of our languages. The Pueblo people are primarily located in the state of New Mexico. There used to be over 500 Pueblos just in that region only. Now it's diluted down into the 19.
That was a pretty impressive list of people that you've been working with right before this.
I was playing with Jennifer Lopez for about 2 or 3 years, and then there was Andy Summers from the Police. And
Sweet.
Gabe Rosales is such a strong political activist. He's a student of history, a student of politics, and a student of human nature.
I started playing music at a pretty young age, and I got inspired from listening to my parents. I picked up the bass when I was about 14 years old, and then just didn't look back. You know, my long-term goals of possibly a civil rights law degree. Civil rights and human rights is a thing that I take seriously, and so that is kind of like the path that I started going on, and I moved away from doing pop gigs because I felt like I was actually adding to the problem if I'm backing up artists that were just making kids want to do drugs and drink and focus on material things, which is totally expendable and impermanent.
George is singing.
Story of our life.
I'm right here.
Welcome to Shadow Train. The door's locked.
can you all introduce yourselves for me?
I'm George Lynch.
Donnie Dickman.
Donnie's got the coolest name in the band.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
I'm from Carmel, California. Moved to Hawaii to pursue my musical career. Joined a band over there and just began playing music and never stopped. Playing with these guys is like definitely, it's like playing with the best guys you could possibly play with.
I've spent a lot of time on the road, and my bands have always really been my other family. Having this band of brothers, this like-minded group, collective of musicians that all love and respect each other and very passionate about our ideology. So there's these road musicians that are activists, and we have a general idea of where we're going, but we're traveling through the western United States, mostly visiting Indian reservations and putting ourselves in a position where we are finding things and things are finding us, so it's an adventure.
Located in the broad, fertile valley of the great Rio Grande, Albuquerque is a fascinating mixture of 3 cultures, Indian, Spanish, and American. The old town was established in the 17th century by the Spanish conquerors of Nuevo Mexico.
Where's that sound?
There's probably about maybe 4 or 5 farmers that are here in the village of Powati that are actually doing it the old way, that are actually leading by example.
Yeah.
I'm probably like one of the youngest guys in the village that are doing it. You gotta give your whole heart to it. You gotta, you know what I mean? It's an everyday thing. All I'm trying to do is lead by example for my future generations, my kids and their kids.
Everyone leads by example. No matter if you drive an Escalade and are all blinged out, that's an example. You're saying this is the way I think man should be. So you out here singing, working in the fields, and then your nephew sees it, and their friends see it.
This was so beautiful about having communities where your history is here, your elders were here, your children are here, your grandchildren passing down knowledge, and the old buildings are here, and you keep them up, and it's that connection to your past that's so important.
And if we can do that and teach our children how to make pottery, how to make moccasins, how to go back to the traditional way of planting our seeds, our crops, down to even landscaping our lands the way they used to long ago, so that Mother Nature is our guide. She's free and she's willing to teach you.
I remember when I was a kid, in the 60s, we had this Everybody had this, right?
Right.
Why wouldn't a person in a suburb have one of these in their home? And they feel like, well, the material world tells me that if I'm defined by what I have, if I don't have a dryer, indoor dryer, and I'm paying $100 a month to run that to dry our clothes,
that's right.
I'm less of a person.
That's right. That's how they would feel like.
Yeah. And I think the opposite is actually true, and I think that's what you have to educate people about. That actually, if you do this, you're a better person.
My name's Richie, and I've been sober. It's gonna be 4 years coming up, and it hasn't been easy. I was killing myself with alcohol. I wanted to die. I was gonna sell all my guitars and pay for my funeral. Then I met Chucky. We fell in love, and she didn't judge me. She didn't point a finger at me and say, that's the bad guy. I'm alive today because I think there's something for me to do, something left for me to pass on to the next generation. A good res boy never leaves the res without his knife, because you never know what you need to butcher. Rabbit, sheep, elk, deer, antelope, fish. This knife can save your life. You always carry a knife on the res, always. The chief. Hey, what's up, George? Check it out, man. Right on, man. Let's go.
I'm actually going to use my seatbelt in this thing. He's a crazy driver. Hey, where's the doors, man?
Don't need them. Summertime. Yeah. I love that feeling.
It's a Cadillac, what?
Yeah, this took 5 vehicles. A Cadillac, a Ford van, a Chevy van, and 2 Jeeps. A lot of people said it couldn't be done.
Richie Anderson is the real deal, 100% Navajo, and a vestige of a bygone era. Being a mutt myself with a healthy dose of European heritage, we probably wouldn't be on such good terms if we had met a couple hundred years ago.
For the martyrs they made of us, whose sacred bones lay beneath the dust. They thought they could ravage us. When we fought back, we became savages. But we're not driven by their God and their greed. We thrive for many centuries without those seeds. From deep within our souls the fires burn, and the time will come for us to take our turn. And we will rise to the sky. That will be the day of our return.
No longer is heard the war cry of the dispossessed red man driven by the white man ever deeper into the western wilderness. He is mining vanadium. This rare element lies beneath the rocks of his reservation, where white brothers have taught him how to blast out the hidden treasure.
This whole mountain was mine from as far as you can see that way to as far as you can see this way. And every family here has lost somebody to cancer,
stillborn, birth defects, leukemia, all kinds of health issues. And all these families up and down have lost animals and livestock, all because of the uranium mining.
A lot of our elders, all they wanted was just to live there, to have their horses, to have their sheep, have their livestock, their way of life, uninterrupted. But obviously, when there's resources under your land, those corporations, governments will stop at nothing.
There's definitely a economic underpinning of a lot of massacres because there's wealths that are gained from taking over people's property.
The reason we wanted to go to the Anaconda mine is just to expose the sheer devastation that these mines reap on land that permeate the soil for dozens of miles around these mines.
Yellow's open pits, the blue are the pro ore stockpiles, and these red ones are the waste dumps. The main flow of water that comes through right here through the village, right through here. That was all farming area.
It's very ironic that one of the most beautiful places in the world is surrounded by all this poisonous stuff just to create wealth for a few people.
They just put a Band-Aid over it.
There's no sign on this place.
It's a military facility that was opened a couple of years ago. There's a lot of stuff going on that they're not telling the people, and we're here to find out what's up, And I was wondering who those fucking government fuckers are right there. The hottest plutonium you can get on planet Earth comes from right here where we're going. Just kind of keep that camera down right here. Yeah, this is kind of a heavy thing to do, but we're gonna do it. You guys need to see this right here, brothers. Follow me.
The serpent is a basic theme in all indigenous literature, rock carvings.
It goes all the way back into the mine. I think it's the shell of the serpent that was woken during the heyday of the uranium industry in this area. This is a prehistoric shrine, bro.
It's not important how it got here, whether it was put here by man or not. In the context of the poison that's been emitted from the poisoning of the air, earth, and water to make weapons of mass destruction, which is what these mines are all about. The sense that human beings have been disconnected from the natural world to such an extent that as intelligent we are, as much history as we have, as much as we know, that we can be as harmful and as selfish as we are, is pretty profound. Feds are coming back for us.
It happened a long time ago. In the new magic land. The Indian and the buffalo, they existed hand in hand.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm excited. Getting to meet the new Uncle Ted, I used to call him in high school.
The fact that he is so political and so antithetical to what the message of this film is about on certain levels, but in other ways parallel with some of the messages that the film is about, as far as his lifestyle and what he advocates, as far as being close to the land and eating what he kills and all those kinds of wonderful things. But politically, completely polar opposite.
Those that work the hardest succeed the most. Those that work the shittiest succeed the less. 99.99 times out of 100, that's how it works. You don't put forth the effort, fuck you.
Lack of education, lack of jobs, lack of
Refusal of
opportunities.
education. You can get educated. I've done DARE programs at a number of Native American schools. And I'm approaching the school and I'm going, is this a school or a landfill? And I said, before I do my program, I want everybody out here and let's pick up this shit.
But that doesn't change the underlying architecture of why they're there, which is economic injustice.
Yeah, but that happened a long time ago.
It's still happening. Ted eats what he kills, and he has this wonderful song that he wrote in the 70s called The Great White Buffalo, in honoring Native American people and their history and what they're all about. And that's wonderful. And I wonder how he's gotten to a place many decades later. He supports an ideology that is in direct conflict with the best interests of those people.
Tell the commies and the Marxists and the Leninists and tell the socialists to move to Canada. We haven't got room for you here.
And this is an ideology that supports extreme corporatocracy, that has supported the genocide and subjugation of Native American people and all indigenous people around the world.
The government has a long history of breaking treaties, especially the Catholic Church was behind a lot of land being stolen. And you go back to the Northwest Ordinance of 1776. They used the doctrine of discovery, which is a Vatican policy. But the United States government embraced the policy and applied it to American Indians. The church considers the tribes savages, barbarians, and heathens.
We're concerned about people, the reservation people, the people on the reservation that are being forced to assimilate or die out. We're worried about things like our language and our culture. And we want this on our own terms. We don't want to be able to hang on to it because the federal government says we can keep this much and we can keep that much. It's part of us. We're talking about law. We're talking about respect as a people. Respecting a people as a people. We're talking about more than poverty. We're talking about honor. We're saying, you've never dealt with us honorably, United States, ever.
The United States government has signed treaties with the different native tribes. And treaties are law. The founding papers are of America. It says treaties are laws and they shall be held in the same abeyance as the Constitution. But yet, we live in a public perception of reality where people don't understand that treaties are laws. They just think it's some kind of ethical, moral thing, but it's law. It's the law. For Native people, what our position has always been is we're basically saying to America, honor the law.
One of the places we really wanted to visit was Alcatraz Island. It was the site of an important protest at the turn of the 1970s, which helped to fuel modern American Native activism.
First of all, a number of Indians throughout the United States have the right to appropriate a certain amount of the so-called public domain or public property of the United States. But probably the strongest right, from my point of view, is that Alcatraz Island is the original property of California Indian people. And that property that the federal government still holds within the state, which would include Alcatraz, would, it seem to me, still have an unextinguished Indian title. Now, the federal government has never paid for the land, has no deeds to the land. I mean, you can ask any federal official, where is their deed for Alcatraz? See, and they have none. They have no paper to support their claim to Alcatraz. And now, especially that the federal buildings there are abandoned. The buildings and all of the other property on Alcatraz revert to the original owners of the real estate, which would be, in this particular case, the California Indian people.
You were here in '69.
Yeah, my parents.
The story goes back to 1953. When the government set out on a policy called House Resolution 108, commonly known as the termination policy. And that policy was to abolish all reservations in America, close down the Bureau of Indian Affairs. The government started a relocation program, take Indians from the reservations, ship them to the cities. So we have that as the background, the frustration. The Bay Area Indians, Indians of all tribes, we were an independent group. We were no longer dependent on the government for handouts or any other programs. So we were free-spirited people, and we took this island.
The Native Americans reclaimed this land known as Alcatraz Island in the name of all American Indians by right of discovery. We feel that the so-called Alcatraz Island is more than suitable for an Indian reservation, as determined by the white man's own standards. By this we mean that this place resembles most Indian reservations. It has no fresh running water. There are no oil or mineral rights. There's no industry, and so unemployment is very great.
From the winter of 1969 to the spring of 1971, a group of Native Americans seized Alcatraz Island years after the prison had been closed. It was a symbolic gesture of taking back land that was once their own. But they had also hoped to create an Indian cultural center or small university on the island.
Once we started occupying Alcatraz, other tribes, other groups throughout the country started taking over. 72 of them.
It's indefinite how long we can stay here because not subject to any different type of conditions that we aren't subjected to out there in the city or on the reservation. You know, like it's always cold and, you know, you never have that much to eat anyway. So average for an Indian way of life now, I mean today, it's nothing different.
Native people, as indigenous people, this whole continent belonged to us, but we lived in another way entirely. The reason why we took Alcatraz was because it was federal surplus property. And under federal law and just about every single treaty made with Native tribes, it is supposed to come back to us. So we tried to hit the angle of getting the government to honor their own laws and treaties. We just wanted them to acknowledge that there is law, but when it comes to us, they need to enforce it, and that never happened.
By 1971, the government had shut off all electrical power and removed the fresh water supply to the island. Finally, on June 10th, armed federal marshals removed the occupiers from the island permanently.
Power to the Indian people! Get this guy the hell up!
Doesn't it seem insane that the original Americans, after having everything taken from them and their population going from however many multiple tens of millions of people down to 250,000 people by the time the first census took place. So they've got this rock sitting out here with an abandoned prison on it. But I think the reason they fought the Native Americans so hard is because it would have been symbolically significant if the natives had succeeded in occupying it and having that stick, because that would have been a precedent. Should we honor the 400 broken treaties? That'd be a good place.
God, it's tragedy, it's heartbreak.
It's a contract in a world of rule of law.
Now, isn't there some examples, though, where some tribes' leaders have dug the history, found these treaties, and said, listen, motherfucker, you owe, and this is our land?
Yes.
Why can't we get all the tribes to find those? Now, obviously, if your land used to be Tulsa, some compromise is going to happen.
You might get some BLM land.
Something, yes.
It's reality,
Tit for tat. How about the violation that you would be hard-pressed to find an American who knows what the Trail of Tears was? So we don't teach this in school? Are you kidding me?
The Muskogee Creek lived peacefully in what is now Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi. President Andrew Jackson ordered their removal to Oklahoma. Thousands died on this forced march, now called the Trail of Tears.
You know, you split a group of people up like that, you know, divide and conquer. You're going to start to dilute all of these important things that make up who you are as a culture and as a people.
It was 1864. That's when Kit Carson came through, rounded up all the people, had the Scorched Earth campaign.
One of our America's supposed heroes, to some extent, is Kit Carson. Kit Carson had the trust of Native people for a long time and spoke their language in the sense that they thought he was an honest person.
1863, when the Long Walk started, and Kit Carson came up here with his soldiers. All the valleys around here gathered up
a lot of our tribal members and took them on the long walk to Bosque Redondo. Families, grandmas, kids. They burned their hogans, burned their fields. But some of the warriors didn't want to go. They hid up in these hills up here. The soldiers heard about minerals, rich minerals around here being mined. When they took our people to Bosque Redondo, the soldiers came back. Then our warriors came off the hills and killed all of them.
After we rehearsed, we rented that huge RV and packed our stuff in there. Had a 12-foot trailer that I thought was like way bigger than it needed to be. So we started like loading all our stuff up, and then, you know, sure enough, we filled it up.
The trip to South Dakota and back was our most ambitious trip. Vinny was not able to make the trip with us because it was 3 weeks, and for Vinny it was impossible to pull off. So we brought in Jimmy, and you know, I have a history with Jimmy. Jimmy used to play in one of the groups I was in back in the early 2000s.
My name is Jimmy DeAnda, born and raised in Boyle Heights, East Los Angeles. And one of the bands that I'm most known for is a band called Bullet Boys. And throughout the years, I've been playing with just amazing musicians. And I always make myself available for anything that has positive force. You know, it's helping those who don't have a voice to speak for them. And of course, and my family on my father's side, we're a part Mescalero Apache from Mescalero, New Mexico. I want to help other people, but this actually was also about me getting in touch with a part of who I am and where I come from.
The past couple days have been pretty chaotic. We got a little bit behind schedule. We got to the campsite. They gave away our campsite, so we didn't have any place to put the RV. That's the reason why we're here in the Walmart parking lot.
Yeah!
We've been eating like road food and stuff.
Eat a salad, yeah.
Eat a salad and soup.
Everybody's kind of like anti-big corporation. It's kind of funny because everybody loves coffee, and we brought coffee, and we bought a coffee maker, but we go to Starbucks about every 10 miles. Oh yeah, we like Walmart too because they let us camp in their parking lot.
We're supposed to end up in South Dakota by a certain day. How many days we got to get there? 2?
We got to play on the
25th or?
25th.
Okay.
So really what that does is it sets us up to kind of spend a little time on the way.
It's a little out of the way, but Fort Laramie is reachable.
Okay.
And that's about halfway. So
that's perfect.
Yeah, and it's intact, and it looks pretty much like it did 100 years ago, except it's obviously weathered and eroded away. But what we can do is go there, talk about the history of the whole fort system and why it was installed in the States, basically to protect the invaders so that they could, you know, rape, steal, and pillage.
The biggest mistake that was made with the Horse Creek Treaty is the people who were running or were speaking for the government told the Indians to find one person to speak for all the tribes. And again, one of the things that came from that treaty is they divided all the Indians up into reservations. But you know, the main thing with the treaty really was simply to try and let us go through their lands uninhibited. And a lot of them could not read, and they were explained the terms of the treaty.
Right.
And then they were asked to sign it, and they did. They were promised so much money. The government immediately cut that back almost half. As the buffalo herds diminished, the agencies became more and more important to the Indians because they were beginning to become hungry. They were running out of buffalo to hunt, and the wildlife was disappearing. Sitting there in our camper.
They just telling me the story. That's
yeah,
insane.
we were playing some of our
favorite music, you know, and your music came on and we were jamming with it, and then the next thing I know, I come out and your keyboard player talking to him, and he says, yeah, we're here doing this documentary. And I thought, how cool was that?
Yeah.
Welcome to America, where the rich convince the middle class to blame the poor. Like slavery and apartheid, poverty is not natural. It is man-made, and it can be overcome and eradicated by the actions of human beings.
The place is Wounded Knee, South Dakota, the year 1891. Chief Bigfoot and approximately 350 men, women, and children were captured by the U.S. cavalry. While surrendering their weapons, a gun was accidentally discharged. The cavalry opened fire on the unarmed Indians. The body of the chief and more than 250 of his people were left to freeze in the snow. Later, a mass grave was dug for them.
The reason why there were so many people here was to have a ghost dance. And the ghost dance was thought to keep the white man from coming, bring the buffalo back, and to basically bring the people back together and keep us strong. So the 2nd 7th Cavalry who came here, and they came here with itchy trigger fingers, so to speak. And when they seen a lot of people here, mostly women and children gathering, and they started singing the songs for the ghost dance, they thought, okay, the natives are getting riled up. They're about to, charge. They want to battle.
This is Tatanka Yotanka, Sitting Bull. If a man loses anything and goes back and looks carefully for it, he will find it. And that is what the Indians are doing now when they ask you to give them the things that were promised. And I do not consider that they should be treated like beasts. And that is the reason I have grown up with the feelings that I have. I feel that my country has gotten a bad name, and I want it to have a good name. It used to have a good name. I sit sometimes and wonder who it is that has given it a bad name. Let us put our minds together and see what life we will make for our children.
Serial killers. Yes.
A man named Leonard Peltier, who is sitting in a cage at Leavenworth Federal Prison right now as a result of being accused of having killed 2 FBI agents who were in the process of engaging in an armed invasion of the Oglala Lakota, or Pine Ridge Reservation. During the 1970s, the American Indian movement took a stand on the Pine Ridge Reservation under the provisions of the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty to insist upon the exercise of Indian treaty rights there. That was such a threatening concept to the federal government that it sent in essentially counterinsurgency specialists from the United States Army and a number of counterintelligence specialists from the Federal Bureau of Investigation to mount what they refer to as the suppression of insurgents.
The occupation of Wounded Knee is considered the beginning of what people refer to as the Reign of Terror.
During that time, some 64 local Native Americans were murdered. Most of them had ties to AIM. Their deaths went uninvestigated by the FBI.
The alternative is either to abandon the political struggle or to engage in armed security to prevent armed assault.
When history books are full of shit, I become the anarchist of this. And this.
One of the places that it happened, this becomes a point of attack by the FBI. It didn't work out. There were about 30 Indians there instead of 8. The 2 agents got cut off and their expected reinforcements. They got killed. It's not known with any clarity outside of the American Indian movement who it was that killed the agents. Leonard Peltier did not pull the trigger that killed the agents.
Leonard Peltier has long maintained his innocence. Amnesty International considers him a political prisoner who was not granted a fair trial.
An innocent man. Leonard Peltier Day, June 26th.
There's a lot of emotion going around today, and it's really electric here. And we're getting ready to go to Pine Ridge, and you can just feel it in everybody.
Everyone in this country should know the story of Leonard Peltier because it's very symbolic. Government has perpetrated on Native American people throughout history, and it continues to this day.
Leonard was accused, along with 3 other gentlemen, June 26, 1975, of shooting 2 FBI officers. No one's really ever proved any of them did anything other than protect the people. The only thing Leonard's guilty of is being Indian.
He was not convicted for killing the agents. He was convicted of aiding and abetting, and even the government has admitted they have no idea whether he killed the agents or not. The man who actually executed the agents has admitted it. Become the Nelson Mandela of the Native movement through his courage and growth in incarceration.
I am everyone who ever died without a voice or a prayer. Everyone who ever suffered for being an Indian, for being human.
This trip's been it's been kind of rough. You know, it's been nothing's really gone the way it's supposed to. We've gotten lost. We've forgot people. Had to go back. We've had to turn around and go back a couple times.
We are right here at the border of Nebraska and South Dakota, which is really like ground zero for this war on alcohol.
We traveled to this small town called White Clay, which really existed for one reason only, to sell alcohol to Native American communities. Nobody really lives there. There's 14 liquor stores, white-owned liquor stores. They sell $5 million worth of alcohol a year, roughly, into the Native communities who just buy it and take it back onto the reservation. So the money flows off reservation. They can't even have their own vice money.
We're talking about people that are being completely exploited because of their susceptibility to alcoholism.
Consider this. What other battles do you have to fight? I mean,
How about recognition of contracts, which were treaties?
Yeah, treaties.
Land that was stolen.
Black Hills. Black Hills is ours.
And if you're drunk, how do you deal with that?
That's how you deal with it.
Yeah, that's right. That's how some people deal with it. Exactly.
We watch this bar. You know, that's our job. Every time a beer truck comes in, we sit there and we protect it.
What these white liquor store owners do is they hire these natives as security to protect them from the groups like American Indian Movement, the Idle No More, the Zero Tolerance, these organizations that are camped around this town, flying their flags with their banners that demonstrate. They exist just to diminish the damage this industry wreaks on their communities. And they're very confrontational, and what we saw was a lot of ugliness.
That's all owned by one family. For over 100 years, it's all run by one family over there. So we need to run that one family off, but they're fighting. They're saying, oh, it's a business, we have a right. But we're saying, do your business, but take it way over there where our people can have to travel farther in person and give it up. But it's that disease, the alcohol. It's the trickster. It got them so tainted, their eyesight's tainted. I love it when they sit there and they sing Indian and stuff, but they lost what the words mean. Eight years in the Army. When I came back, nobody appreciated what I did for the Navajo Nation, United States.
That Army Ranger, I was talking to him on the street, and I saw myself in him, because if I didn't quit drinking, it seemed like the Creator was telling me that that's you if you didn't stop. If you start again, that's you. You'll be digging in garbage cans for food. You'll be begging on the street corners for money to get a drink. You'll be sleeping on the street, sleeping in the trees. Might freeze to death in a ditch under a bridge. Might get beat up, might get stabbed. You know, you never know what's gonna happen out there when you're drinking like that.
I got no tears.
And what he told me was, he goes, I'm not coming back. This is where I'm going, and this is my life. And he's holding a vodka bottle in his hand, and he said, I'm not gonna come back from this. And it's sad that it's like that for a lot of our people. They can't let go of the bottle.
Ready?
Come out here now.
Huh? Come on. Let's get you situated. You guys are gonna start writing better songs.
Yeah, right?
All your songs are stupid beat pop.
Or you gotta start writing songs.
I thought you said thong.
playing the Oglala commemorative on the Pine Ridge Reservation. I met a woman who was telling me a story about her daughter who had committed suicide, and it was a very poignant, sad, heartbreaking conversation. She revealed to me that her daughter's name was Mariah, which is one of my daughter's names. I asked her if I could meet with her, and she lives in an area near the town of Pine Ridge, a couple miles away. When was it that this happened?
November 18th, 2009.
3 or 4 years?
This should be the fourth year. 4 years.
Is there a reason?
You know, I'll never know. I'll never know the reason.
It was her mother. I mean, imagine there had to be some...
There's always going to be that question of why.
I'm sure there's, lots of things that go on here that as beautiful as it is and as tight as the families and communities are, there's a lot of, obviously, hardships and things on the underbelly of the res, just like, out in America everywhere, but especially here, I think.
Alcoholism is here. There's drugs, marijuana, coke, you name it. I mean, these kids probably know more about that than I do. I know there is hopelessness here. I mean, when you have all these young kids looking at you saying, what do we do? What do you have to say to me? I have to step back, think about what I'm going to tell them so that it sticks with them.
When there is hopelessness with the youth and kids, a lot of times the only thing that they would gravitate towards with any enthusiasm is music. That's good, man.
Hi.
What's up?
Oh, just teaching them a few chords.
Yeah, got the LTD, rocking the LTD. Nice. We heard about BJ's, like aspiring guitarists. We thought, hook you up. Here you go, check it out. We didn't have a case, unfortunately, but... Hey, it's brand new. The right color, black.
LTD. LTD. Thank you, George, for coming. Thanks for the guitar. I'm excited. I'm gonna play every day, and in a year from now, I'm gonna hopefully be playing good.
Music is medicine. When did you guys decide to do this, and where did the name come from, and where's the whole origin that's brought us here?
All the kids on our reservation that are into sports, they're all covered. They all have something to do after school. The kids that are into art, music, there's no place for them to go. And we started talking about a music camp.
They're young, so we're starting them, we're teaching them, we're giving them all this information about being healthy mentally, spiritually, emotionally.
Right, just like that. Okay, I'm gonna count 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know it's weird. You just gotta remember that's gonna be your 1.
We travel with instruments when we're out there that have been donated to us to give out to, kids on the res who are aspiring musicians, or to schools with music departments that don't actually have any musical instruments to teach on.
That's a drum kit courtesy of Yamaha. It's beautiful. It's called a Yamaha cake maker. And I know Navajos like heavy metal, right? So there you go.
Realistically, the youth is what we need to get access to and get them, teach them to have respect for themselves and respect for other human beings. And especially on the reservation, they're very, very susceptible to drugs and alcohol. So the youth is, that's the future of the entire world. You know what I mean? One of my favorite sayings is, we didn't inherit this world from our ancestors, we're borrowing it from our children.
The true meaning of music and what music is for, to heal the soul. That's what we try to teach our kids at music camp. When you're giving your soul to these kids and you're playing, you put your heart and your soul to these kids, that it means more than all the money in the world.
We're standing in front of what is called the Kayenta Multipurpose Justice Center. So they're building this for the youth on the Navajo Reservation. Right across the street, they have a youth facility, the Boys and Girls Club, that they just shut down. So they have no money for that. They have no money for music education in the schools here, but they have $42 million for a youth detention center, which just perpetuates the sort of sense of hopelessness that is pervasive in these places.
In our culture, we wake up in the morning and we pray to the Yebiches. They reside in the east with the sunrise. We pray to them with corn pollen, and we pray to Mother Earth for thanks and for blessing us and for a good life and for protection. And that rock represents our Yebiches, our 7 deities, and they reside right here in this canyon, and it's a very special, powerful place.
I see a lot of people from the larger culture gravitating towards indigenous worldview, spirituality, but I think what people are feeling is that they are missing something in their lives.
The connection is all there. We have electricity. We have within us that we don't see. You don't see it, I don't see it, but it's here. It gives life. The Mother Earth, it gives life.
White people, they go inside a church, a building, and they pray to God. Native people, this is our church.
It's always just part of your upbringing. Either your family, they know and have that understanding. Like my dad, he's a traditional Navajo medicine practitioner, a Tathi. So growing up, going to ceremonies, having a cultural understanding of identity, who I am, my connection to this land, the mountains here. That was having the horses, the responsibility. That's such an important aspect of knowing that there's a whole other way of life.
We're descendants of lords of the land, I'm talking about people that could ride horses and shoot arrows and, and feed communities and come up with complex irrigation systems. This wasn't a primitive culture by any means. We were architects and engineers and at the same time hunters, and we had respect for ourselves because we ate perfectly sound, good food that hasn't been touched by anything other than Mother Nature.
Some people work really, really hard for almost nothing, and then so you wonder if you put that amount of time and effort into a crop or, building, digging a well or taking care of livestock, I think it would be more rewarding.
From the average person, I think it's harder and harder for them to understand how important it is to be connected to the natural world. I have a lot of things at play here. The status quo, greed, fear of death, fear of other people, and an intractable status quo that doesn't want to let go. And that's always been the human struggle. We're not going to turn the clock back and all live like people lived 1,000 years ago, nor would we want to. But I think we have to achieve some balance.
The only choices we have, it seems, is to assimilate and to start buying and consuming, because that's what keeps the economy going. And we have this brainwashed idea that we have to keep consistently doing that. We either got to be the victors or we're going to be the victims.
There is another way, and that's the way that we've always lived, because we have lived in such desperate poverty. We have had to live off the land. We have had to plant our own garden.
English imperialism is different from others. They have to get rid of the natives and essentially take over. Settler colonialism is called. It's a kind of imperialism, but of a different kind than usual.
You're not enslaving the population, you're replacing the population.
You're not ruling them and turning them into a workforce. We all know from our personal experience that it's pretty easy to develop rationalizations for something we, at some level, know is wrong.
I would say that there have always been different contending Americas. There's an America of those who justified the genocide of the Native Americans, those who justified slavery, those who were the lynchers and the napalmers, but there's another America as well. Those are those who have stood up for justice along the way, who have stood up for people's rights, who have stood up for the people on the lowest rungs of the ladder and have not bowed down to wealth and privilege. So that's why I'm very proud to call myself an American, because I'm part of that latter tradition. The people changed the world. Like apartheid ended. The Berlin Wall came down. Like things, the world changes and people change it. At one point, it seemed an impossibility that women would be able to vote or that lunch counters would be desegregated. Those things have changed for the better, not because of the wisdom of presidents or of the Supreme Court, but because people have stood up in their place and time for what's right.
We all want the same thing. We all want to affect change in some small way if possible for ourselves and for generations beyond us.
I think that these kind of projects encourage us to come out of the woodworks because we're all kind of silently protesting every day in our lives just by existing, you know? The existence is the resistance.
lot of musician friends that I have are not here. They're not here anymore. They just knocked my hat off their spirits. Hell yeah, I'm talking about you some bitches. They're not here anymore. Because they got lost in the big lie.